What is up, Joe Brony? JJ back here from Run Pure Bets, talking a little bit more of college basketball. Today, Sunday, February the 5th. Some might call it the 5th. It depends who you ask, how you pronounce, whatever. Um, guys might notice no hat season, right? Showing off the locks. Also, just got the fresh fade. You know, folks that get the fades will know. Shit's solid. Also, no reason in particular, but I think you need a fade after yesterday's show. You know what the sad reality is? So yesterday I fired on 6 different bets. One of them was a split bet, first half and full game. And of course I give you guys the two losers. Well, I did mention on the show that I was invested in Loyola plus 1.5, but that game had already tipped. So yeah, they won outright. As a very, very small dog. App State team total didn't get there. Actually, to be honest, it ended up becoming a kind of a sweat, right? Despite the ridiculous, what App State scored 19 points the first half, and then like 40 something in the second half, but obviously still was about 10 points off. Purdue, Indiana, probably the easiest bet of the day. That got there with ease at over 139. Army once again shot like shit against Bucknell. Super tilting, to be honest. As a small favorite, felt like a perfect revenge spot for him. And Bucknell doesn't play defense, but yeah, Army, credit to Bucknell, that played really well. And then Seattle, New Mexico, first half over, got there pretty easily, and the full game over, 145.5. What did the total end up at, like one in the 160s, I think. So yeah, a few easy winners on the overs. Again, Run Pure Bets members obviously cashed on those, but the two I gave out didn't get there. What's up, John? Where's that guy Fax? Probably sitting on the couch, enjoying life, maybe. What's up, Leroy? Gerardo? So what was I going to say? But yeah, I got a few bets I fired on. I will give you the one I bet for 12 o'clock first. I'll tell you a little interesting thing about happened to me yesterday. So first game that I bet today. So St. Joe's plays LaSalle. I actually loved this matchup last year. I often love when these two play because for whatever reason, the pace of these games, always you anticipate it being quick, and LaSalle's offense always sucks. And actually, St. Joe's from an offensive efficiency standpoint also often sucks. But they've looked a little better this year in that regard. Definitely a better team than LaSalle. But again, no, don't get silly. Neither of these teams are likely to be dancing. Not out of the Atlantic 10 anyway. Atlantic 10's got some decent teams again this year. So I look at this game from a few different perspectives. Both teams don't play defense. Both teams have below efficiency on offense. But a game like this will blaze pace-wise. And we saw it last year where these two teams played up and down. And I know they played a few weeks ago. But what I found so odd about that game was LaSalle shot like 31% from the field and still ended up with 59 points. And forget the they did get a little credited from the free throw line, right? There was a lot of fouls called, but not to say you wouldn't necessarily expect that. I mean, St. Joe's is pretty handsy. They're like 230th worst in the country at throwing guys at the free throw line. So it's not like it's crazy to think that would happen. I guess where it was interesting was LaSalle doesn't really get to the hoop that frequently, but I do think if they watch back that tape of that game, you're going to see how much potential there is there between their pick and rolls and between St. Joe's getting super handsy inside. I think LaSalle gets back to the free throw line quite a bit. And look, do I think they'll shoot 31% again from the field in a game that expects to blaze? I don't think so. But here's what I know. I know that LaSalle averaged 0.83 points per possession in that game as per Ken Palm. That is like brutally low. I mean, even for like the worst of the worst teams, that is brutally low. I mean, you're talking a league average that's well over 0.9 per possession. And 0.83 is absolutely brutal, especially against a bad defense, and especially against a team that speeds you up. So I feel pretty confident we get to league average here from LaSalle at a 0.9. We get LaSalle over their team total. So I did split it though to give myself a little extra protection. LaSalle first half team total over 31.5, minus 110 DK, and then LaSalle team total over 67.5. DK as well, the minus 120 on the full game and minus 110 on the first half. Let me see. Hold on. LaSalle first half plus full game team total over. First half for the 31.5 and full game, 67.5 over. I got both those numbers at DK. I'm sure you could maybe price shop and find something you like there, maybe a little more. I just think it makes a lot of sense that there's going to be points in that game. And look, I think St. Joe's can get there too. I just like I know I'm going to get pace from St. Joe's. I'm not necessarily worried about that. And LaSalle does play fast, but St. Joe's speeds up almost everybody they play. So I would expect that from them. And look, LaSalle coming off a decent game against George Washington. I don't really care how the team played recently, though. They were skidding a bit before that game. But needless to say, again, from pace, lack of shooting efficiency the last time out, still got relatively close to the number. I think regardless of South Florida with this number, and I think in a good script, even an average script, I think they get over this by 4 or 5 points. So I do like the spot, and maybe we get a little extra help with free throws late if it's close enough. It's the spread for this game is in that like perfect area. When you want free throws late in a game, your perfect number is really between like 5 and 7. Because you're forced to have these extra possessions more or less when the game is late and it's 2 or 3. Defense is super clamped down. It comes possession by possession. You really want, especially if you need free throws late, you really want the game to be between 5 and 7 points. Your final minute and a half. That's how you'll get the most optimal free throws. Take their second half. So let me do a quick peek to the chat. Gerardo, Pie Eater, Mike, Jordan. Don Playa, Mark, Bingus, and Yeezy. Yeezy, my guy, what's up? So went to St. Joe's last year. They're asked, but they aren't. LaSalle asked, take their second half -3. Yeah, I don't mind it. Look, I get it. Like both teams aren't good. But LaSalle is like a weird streaky team in that regard. I remember watching a few games. I feel like I want to say it was LaSalle versus Dayton last year, where LaSalle gave Dayton a real run, and Dayton was a much better team than them. But needless to say, that really doesn't matter in regards to this game. I like the pace or the projected pace, and I think you can be forgiving with the shooting percentages as well. So yeah, that was why I fired on LaSalle. What's up, Ray? Back order. All right, so where are we at? Oh, so yesterday, just a quick tidbit, right? So yesterday I'm at Macy's with my wife, and I'm looking at Creed colognes. Now, for those, maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't. I mean, Creed colognes are, I guess they're up there with Tom Ford. They're probably even more expensive than Tom Ford. I am a fan of Creed colognes, especially since most of their colognes are perfumes. There's differences when you buy colognes, whether it's toilettes or perfumes, in terms of how long they last, blah, blah, blah. I won't go into the details. But needless to say, so I'm trying out a few of the Creed colognes, and my wife finds out that they're $500 each, a bottle. She's like, do you really, like, I don't understand. You really think it's necessary to spend that much money on cologne? And the judginess, you know what I mean? Like, why not be curious? Why? I mean, she knows I wear cologne all the time. So what's with the judging? Just told her to, go look at fucking purses or something. But needless to say, I am a big cologne guy. And I will tell you this, if you do like smelling nice or whatever, the Creed Aventus men's cologne specifically, because there's a bunch of different Aventuses. There's Aventus for her, but whatever. The men's cologne specifically smells fantastic. If you're single or whatnot, an easy pop-off moment for you out in clubs or wherever you're going. As I tell anybody, like if you're single, your two biggest pieces on your resume are your smile and how you smell. Look, how you look, of course. I just think people like just downplay the fact that like if you're going out single trying to look for women or whatever you're doing, like they downplay the fact of like actually like looking good. Like I feel like there's so many people that go out and make themselves look like a dumpster fire. The shit doesn't match. They have no style. And again, I want to be clear. You're happily married, do your thing or whatever. But so many people just get the dating game wrong. And these days, it's like more than ever, people don't know how to talk to anybody. I remember probably like 7-8 years ago when I was single, going out to bars, like everybody was on their phones in the corners. Like nobody talks anymore at bars. And like nobody like goes up to anybody to talk to anybody at bars. It's like super crazy. And I get it. Like I'm a little extroverted in that sense, but if you're introverted or whatnot, I just, to me, especially if you're introverted and you're hoping to magically meet somebody in a public setting that you've never met before, we'll call them a stranger. Three biggest things, smell good, look good, and make sure your smile is on par. Like that's like, those are like huge things in any regard. And people downplay them all. I know so many people that have fucked up teeth and they dress like shit or they smell like shit. Like, I'm not saying you need these things to be successful, but it helps. It helps, especially if you struggle talking to random strangers. Anywho, that's my life lesson of the day. You want to be, if you're single, you want to go out, smell good, look the part, and focus on your smile, because those are big pieces, folks. Okay, we'll call that today's life advice. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? Ray brings up a good point. Like there are people, and that's actually a really good point. There are people, and I used to know this because I going out like back in the day. Like there are people that are literally looking at even apps like Bumble or Plenty of Fish, whatever. Like I don't even like. It's bad that I don't even know the swipe right, swipe left apps these days because I could never even envision myself using them. But like there literally will be at a bar next to 30 women that are single, and instead of talking to any of them or trying to talk to any of them, they will literally be swiping right and swiping left on their phone for people that are 30, 40 miles away from them. Like, are we kidding? Are we joking? Just crazy, absolutely crazy. And honestly, Ray, that's a great point because it's so much more common, I think, that people realize, and it's just become common human behavior and human interactions. It's kind of wild in that regard. But anywho, glad you agree, Easy. I mean, a guy like you, definitely with some style for sure. So it's nice because I've seen some of the shit you post. It's good to see. Good to see some alphas agreeing with one another. Also, Yeezy, from what I've seen from you, you drip. You got a lot of jewelry. Good for you. Good for you. Okay, back to basketball. Back to real life. Some will call this back at the ranch. So another game I bet today. A few overs I liked. So I find college basketball for me, I always approach it in a few different ways, especially when I start getting more heavily involved betting wise on a daily basis. I typically like to stay in a lane, whether I'm betting predominantly unders, predominantly overs, predominantly small favorites, predominantly small dogs, blah 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 blah. I don't necessarily love to grab teams where I'm grabbing 7 or 8.5. I do. I know for a fact, especially with how low volume I bet, I'm just not in the mood to cash bets late in the game because kids are making their free throws or they're not. But anywho, overs have been much better for me this year than other bets. So it's kind of where I've been trying to focus my efforts. And another game I bet today. So Iona plays Fairfield. And Fairfield is absolute dog shit. There's really no two ways around it. Iona's looked really good this year again. And credit to what's his name? I mean, credit to Patino, obviously running this team and revamping them a bit. I mean, they were obviously decent before he got there, but they've been like really good with him there. And I expect him to win a few more conference ships and make a few more trips to the dance before Patino likely goes back into a Power 5 school, because it's pretty clear and pretty evident he can still recruit and he can still coach at this level, despite his allegations that he dealt with off the court. So anyway, so Iona. Again, another team that likes to play fast. Actually, there's like top 20 in the country in possession length per KenPom. So a team that just really moves up and down the floor. Fairfield is definitely the exact opposite of this, but I do love when these types of teams play each other because I think you have favorable spots to target, whether you like a team like Iona to go under their team total or a team like Fairfield to go over their team total. But the way I break this game down is I look at this from a few different angles. I feel pretty confident Iona is going to get theirs in this game. Fairfield really doesn't do a whole lot defensively. And these two teams recently met. I know the total got to like 144-ish. I don't look at that as like totally relevant here. But for me, the biggest takeaway for me in this game is Fairfield specifically. I think it makes a ton of sense for Fairfield to get there and actually have this number a few points off. Primarily because, first of all, I love backing teams that have had back-to-back or even remotely shitty shooting performances and then come back home. They played against Rider a few games ago, shot like shit, lost in overtime. And then Quinnipiac, 51 points out of Fairfield, which may have been a season low. Maybe. Just trying to pull up the link here. 51. Yeah, I actually think it was a season low points for them. And they've played some dog shit teams this year, and they've played some tough teams as well. I always love these types of teams to bounce back. Now, in regards to this game, it makes a ton of sense for Fairfield to find themselves at the free throw line early and often. Okay, Iona is a team that gets very handsy. They foul a ton. KenPom ranks them in the bottom 20% of D1 in putting teams at the line. And one of the few things Fairfield does well is actually get to the free throw line, and they're home, so I expect them to get a few extra home court calls. To me, this cap is predominantly on their ability to get to the free throw line. I know Fairfield is not a great offense, and I know Iona is a good defense, especially in this conference. So I'm not expecting Fairfield to outshoot anything here. If they do, it's a cherry on top. But I do feel very confident that Fairfield will find themselves at the line 20 to 25 times in this game. May even be more, especially if the refs have a heavy whistle. And we're getting a decently short number here. So it's Fairfield's team total over 65.5. It's at FanDuel, minus 104. Again, between Iona's pace of play, and here's what happens when a team like Iona that plays this fast. And this is very, very likely part of the reason why they're fouling at that frequency. A team like that plays this fast, transition defense becomes a bit of an issue. And I think Fairfield's going to have some exploitability there. I know Fairfield typically plays slower, but their best angle to get baskets today is to run with this Iona team. Run with them to the fact of you can get that extra contact, catch the defense on ice skates, running backwards, and keep this game competitive throughout. Whether Fairfield keeps this game competitive or not, I do feel decently that Iona gets there. I just don't want to deal with Iona side in this at all. I do prefer the Fairfield side specifically. So that was where I fired. Fairfield team total over 65.5. Look, if it becomes one of those games where Fairfield's not getting to the free throw line, it is what it is. I mean, this is how I kind of cap it. But I still think even if Fairfield was not to get to the free throw line, in reality, they could shoot above their pay grade here with the added pace or injected pace that Iona is going to bring here. So ultimately, like that spot. So yes, that's Fairfield team total over. Just confirm the number I got. Yeah, I got 65.5, and that was at FanDuel. Minus 104. So you'll often find that I like targeting these types of spots, and I think that one makes a lot of sense. It's actually my favorite bet of the whole day. So I hope it gets there for us. Last but not least, game I fired on, game from the Big Ten. Our friends over in Nebraska are playing Penn State. Man, Nebraska is pretty woof in a lot of different categories. Now I get it; this is still a Power 5 team, so yeah, they're going to beat a bunch of non-Power 5 teams and whatnot. But in relation to this conference, they are, dare I say, skidding. Loses a 4 straight, most of which haven't even been close. And then they snuck a win against Ohio State at home, but then they lost 2 more games pretty bad. Like, this team really has no issue getting blown out against decent teams. With that said, they have often this year been a better scoring team at home. I know that you can nitpick your narrative and find spots where they didn't score well at home against Illinois and Northwestern. Actually, didn't do bad against Northwestern, but to me, this cap. So I like this full game over, and I do because Penn State plays pretty slow. Nebraska can speed this team up a bit. Nebraska doesn't play fast by any means, but they should be able to speed this team up a bit. And I also love the fact of, and I mentioned this before, like I love targeting games where teams are coming off shitty performances. Penn State comes off a game where they shoot 60, where they have 60 total points against Purdue. Purdue, a team, mind you, that just let Indiana score as many points as they wanted to against them. So I think this is a perfect bounce back spot for both teams to find themselves offensively. And look, let's be honest, Penn State, this is a team that, honestly, like this is your typical team that is not a fun one to play in the madness, because they're a team that shoots threes as soon as they get off the bus. They have a ton of snipers. They shoot up more threes than more than like 98% of all D1. They have snipers everywhere. I mean, look, I think they have like 4 or 5 guys that shoot over 40% from 3. Add another 3 or 4 that shoot over 36% from 3. Literally just guys off the bus firing from 3. And while Nebraska's not bad at defending the 3, Penn State's going to get a ton of open looks here. And as for Nebraska's offense, look, they're going to have to find ways to score in this game. Now they are good inside the arc. Penn State's typically okay defending inside the arc. To me, I love the spot to bounce back here. And I'm just trying to see real quick if I don't think these two met this year, did they? A few games. I just mentioned it. A few games ago, these two didn't even shoot that well, to be honest, collectively. And this game still managed to get over this number. Definitely, you had some late heroics in that second half. Teams really started shooting well in that second half. First half really, really crawled, but still got there for the full game. I just think it's going to be a similar one of those type of scenarios where see a decent amount of fouls. And by the way, Nebraska, who only scored 65 that first game, shot 54% from the free throw line. And I know this is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the league, but they're not 54% bad. 13 for 24. At least they were getting there. I think that's their path again. Try to get to the free throw line, keep this game close in that regard. Penn State, of course, can fire from 3 and just really balloon this game if they want. But again, even the last time these two faced, Penn State's a really good three-point shooting team. They shot 11 for 30. So yeah, I guess in theory, Penn State could go flat from three, and that'll impact this total. Nebraska could not find themselves at the free throw line, but Nebraska still did really well inside against this team the first time they played. I'd expect similar and extra contact, extra hands, and we'll go from there. And also, Penn State, what they do very poorly is that they're very bad at stopping ball movement. It's why a lot of teams get open looks against them. They're actually one of the worst from an assists per field goal made in D1. Also, so is Nebraska. It's kind of why I like when two teams like this play each other. I think Nebraska's actually the worst in D1 from an assist to field goal ratio. So all that means is that as teams pass the ball around, they concede a lot of assists per field goal made, which is not a good thing for defenses. Just means, again, a lot of open looks are happening. So yes, I expect a lot of open looks in this game. And if we can get Penn State to nail their threes as they usually do, and Nebraska to find themselves at the free throw line a bit, I think we get over this number. And look, I liked a Big Ten total yesterday, which got over with ease. And I like this spot as well. So yes, I fired there over 136 Nebraska Penn. So Nebraska versus Penn over 136. What's up, Eric Viper? What's up, Corey? Yeah, so as you guys know, I try to keep these shows, anywhere between 20, 30 minutes or so. We are in that ballpark. So look, I hope you all enjoy your Sundays. It's also nice to see NASCAR's coming back. I hate the fact that this race is at 8:30 tonight, so I'm probably not even going to watch it or bet on it. But it's nice to get NASCAR back in action. I'm happy to start talking more NASCAR with the DFS guys once Super Bowl ends. Because you do have that quiet kind of lull, right? You got college basketball, you got NBA winding down, you still got hockey and whatnot, but it's nice for me to start firing on NASCAR again, and of course more tennis chatter too. But with all that said, yeah, I hope you all gamble responsibly. Enjoy your Sundays. Stay safe, and as always, folks, run pure. Worst case, I will catch you guys Wednesday talking more golf with the crew. But again, until then, best of luck all. Stay safe.